thank you, amen. Thank you guys, you can take your seat. I want to thank you everybody for attending tonight and for taking effort to come. Ek wil vir julle baie dankie sê dat julle vanaand hier so is. Dit is 'n baie spesiale gas. Maar voor ons begin, kom ons sluit ons oë. Let's close our eyes. I want to pray. Here ons hemelse Vader, ons sê dankie vir 'n wonderlike aand wat ons hier as Oh My Soul, die beste jeug in Limpopo kan bymekaar kom, Here, en waar ons die geleentheid geskep het hier vir die kinders om te leer oor die sosiale media, Here. Dankie dat U vir ons dit moontlik maak dat ons mense kan kry om met die jeug te kan kom praat oor die sosiale media wat in ons lewens is, Here. Here, ek dankie vir U liefde, ek dankie vir genade. Jesus, ek sê dankie wat U vir ons aan die kruis gedoen het. Ek bid dit in U groot en heilige naam. Amen. Okay guys, so who of you doesn't have social media? Wie het nie 'n sosiale media nie? Yes, julle kan lieg hier in die kerk, sis. So you all agree that social media is part of our lives. Dis deel van ons lewe. Dis 'n belangrike tool in ons lewens. Ek dink nie een van julle ken 'n lewe sonder 'n selfoon nie, maar dit is baie groot deel van ons lewe. Net soos ons in enige aspek van ons lewe foute kan maak, net so kan jy foute op sosiale media maak. You know, like you make mistakes any other parts of your life, you can also make big mistakes on social media and you can get into big trouble. So that is why Pastor Johan said, it's very important that we teach you guys, that we equip you guys, that you learn. Julle moet leer wat julle nie moet doen nie. So, ons het vir prokureur Gerard Buitenbach hierso, hy gaan vir julle stories vertel en hy gaan vir julle die dinge sê, so please listen with intent. Luister, doen moeite om te luister, want ons wil hê julle moet julle self kan beskerm, ons wil nie hê julle moet foute maak op social media nie. Is dit reg? Dankie. Yes, so next week we have this streetkuier, die straatkuier. It's Andre's going away party. It's his last Sunday with us. Andre is moving on to do some other work. So next week, please, we're going to have an event outside. Andre is going to bring a word for us, and it's going to be his going away party. So please don't miss next week and bring your friends. Please, we're going to have a nice time outside. Okay? And then the last weekend on the 30th, we're going to have a praise and worship and a small word. So we are still extending the term with one weekend. So on the 30th, there will still be Oh My Soul, the last one for the year. Okay, thanks. Pastor Johan.
Okay. Van my kant af baie welkom. Dankie dat jy hier is. Jy's 'n great blessing. Ek's regtig baie trots op julle. Ek dink Oh My Soul doen baie goed. You doing well. So, Gerard, kom staan hier by my. Hoe moet as jy aanspreek prokureur Breitenbach? Gerard, so jy mag nie eers vir hom oom sê, jy mag ook oom sê. Gerard. Nou Gerard is van from 1998. From 98. Wie was gebore al in 1998? Is jy 24 jaar oud? Ja. Hy praat twak. Okay. So 1998 is hy hier gekom, toe werk hy by 'n prokureur en toe moet hierdie prokureur dood verongeluk. Toe werk hy in 'n bar, kan jy glo, vir 2 maande. Maar toe besef hy kan nie prokureur wees en in die bar wees in die aand in die bar nie. Toe begin hy sy eie en toe begin hy saam met Keeler, Breitenbach en Keeler en hulle is hierso op die hoek en hy's al die jare daar. Nou hy's 'n ou wat al met moordsake te doen gehad het, verkrachtingssake te doen gehad het, baie aanrandingssake, skeisake, sosiale media sake en ek het vroeër die jaar met hom gepraat en toe vertel hy vir my goed van vroeër die jaar wat met hom gebeur het, stuff that happened. So guys, give me your cell phone here, please. This is important. So, kom ek sê vir julle, ek bedien by die tronk. I'm in the prison. I'm not in the prison, I'm ministering in the prison. There's 30 guys sitting in my class, black and white, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, whatever. They all are saying the same story. It started with something small. They all started. And they say, it's God's purpose that I'm in prison. I say, you're lying. It's not God's purpose, it's your own fault. God wil jou nie daar hê nie. So ons is vanaand hier om julle te waarsku, ons is vanaand hier om jou te leer, dat jy nie in die moeilikheid kom nie. Is jy reg daarvoor? Okay, knyp die ou langs jou, sê, are you ready? Knyp hom. Nou jy nou klaar, knyp hom. Okay, are you ready? Gerard, kom ons gee hom 'n hande klap, is hy welkom? Yes.
Goeienaand julle. I did not expect so many English people, so please, I'm going to do most of my presentation in Afrikaans, but if you, and I will try to do it in English as well, if you lose something, please put up your hand. I don't want you to get lost in the presentation. First, I want to ask, are all of you still in school? Okay. Who's got history as a subject? You say, oh, a few of you. I think you're the lucky ones. I was never interested in history. Ek het nooit in geskiedenis belang gestel nie. Dis eers op universiteit toe ons nou met die Romeinse reg begin leer het, en dit het my getrigger. Toe dit vir my interessant geraak, en ek het tot die slotsom gekom, en ek glo dit nog steeds vandag, daar is mense wat my hieroor gaan uithaal, maar ek dink, geskiedenis is seker een van die belangrikste vakke, en die skole doen hulle bes om het soveel vervelig as moontlik te maak. Dit is ongelukkig net so. En die rede hoekom geskiedenis so belangrik is, dis 'n konstante. En die konstante van geskiedenis is, alle wêreldgebeure is deur 'n besluit veroorsaak. En 'n besluit wat jy maak, kan jy nie verander nie. Every one of you, every day, doesn't matter what you do, are creating your own history. Every choice you make is part of your history. And that is going to follow you. That is going to be your legacy. Dit is hoekom besluitneming so belangrik is. Dit klink dalk oordrewe. Ek sê vir julle, elke besluit wat jy in die lewe neem, bepaal jou geskiedenis. Ek kan daar vir julle wys, ek hoop nou kon tot daar lees. Hierdie was navorsing wat gedoen is in Desember 2024, wat hulle sê, impulsive individuals tend to make risky decisions, often prioritizing immediate rewards over a potential long-term consequences. Dit is 'n besluitneming. Elke besluit wat jy neem, het consequences. Maak nie saak hoe gering die besluit is nie. Dan was daar 'n verdere studie gewees, wat hierdie was, ja, dit gaan vir my 'n bietjie moeiliker wees. Wat hierdie navorsing gewys het, is dat individue neem omtrent 35 besluite 'n dag. As jy besluit om die ding op te tel, dis 'n besluit. As jy besluit om jou maatjie te vloek, dis 'n besluit wat jy neem. En ons neem, we are taking about 35,000 decisions a day. If you take 7 hours of sleep away, dan werk dit uit 2000 besluite per uur, wat jy neem, en wat jou geskiedenis gaan bepaal. En dan verwys hy na Maxwell, wat famously gesê het, life is a matter of choices, and every choice you make, makes you. Dis slim ouens wat hierdie goed gesê het, nie ek nie. Maar elke besluit, ek herhaal weer, bepaal jou geskiedenis. As julle my nie glo nie, wat was die grootste besluit in die wêreldse geskiedenis, wat heeltemal verkeerd geloop het? Die grootste sekonde besluit in die wêreldse geskiedenis, toe loop alles skeef. Net daar. Julle almal, you all know the story. It was the quickest decision that determined the history of our planet as we know it today. One small, the moment when the fruit was bitten, it was a decision, a split-second decision, en dit het ons almal beïnvloed. Dit is hoe gevaarlike besluit is, en nou leef ons daarmee, en julle leef daarmee. There's our snake today. You don't have to eat fruits to make decisions. There's our snake. every cell phone is a snake. Every cell phone can destroy you. Om toegang tot die internet te hê, het baie voordele en verskriklik baie nadele. Geweldige nadele wat ons sosiale orde vernietig, wat families vernietig. En dis 'n besluit wat 'n persoon neem. Jy het 'n keuse, gaan jy iets positief gebruik uit die toegang wat jy het tot inligting, of gaan jy jou heel met snert en jou geskiedenis bepaal? Hoe wil jy jou geskiedenis bepaal? Positief of negatief? Julle besef nie hoeveel lewens word vernietig deur selfone nie. Julle besef nie hoeveel mense vernietig hulle eie lewens met sosiale media nie. Daar het ons hierdie was 'n artikel gewees, dit was 'n meestersreferaat by die Universiteit van Kaapstad in 2013, wat ek gaan dit vir julle lees. The author Bill Blizzy, where he defines cyberbullying as the use of information communication technology known as ICT to support deliberate, repeated and hostile behavior by an individual or group with an intention to harm others. En dan was daar, haal hy ook aan, daar was navorsing by 2 skole in Kaapstad gedoen, waar hulle bevind het, in skole, 1 uit elke 3 kinders word deur cyberbullying gekonfronteer. 1 uit elke 3 kinders. You have to realize, and cyberbullying is a huge, huge social problem. Cyberbullying is enige vorm van harassment. Jy hoef nie iemand, dit kan baie erg wees, jy kan vals nuus oor 'n maat versprei, vals beskuldigings oor 'n maat bestry, jy kan iemand dreig. Dit vorm alles deel van cyberbullying, want ongelukkig die mensdom het al hoe meer sensasioneel soekend geraak. Jy luister baie eerder oor 'n storie waar daar iets negatief oor iemand gesê word, as iemand sou vertel, as ek nou vinnig 'n voorbeeld kan gebruik. What's your name? Precious. Okay, now somebody says on Facebook, Precious helped the teacher to carry her bags. Wie gaan aandag daaraan gee? Niemand nie. Want dis 'n positiewe ding. It's a positive comment. Why would anybody take notice of it? Maar, as iemand sê, Precious took the teacher's wallet today, dan hardloop die storie. En dit is die probleem. Dis die probleem. Ons almal neig na, dis te lekker om iemand se negatiewe goed op sosiale media te versprei. En dit is waar cyberbullying begin. Want ook soos die mense is, hulle het al baie studies daaroor gedoen. As ek vir jou 'n storie vertel, if I tell you a story, then I ask you to tell the same story to the person next to you, and you tell the person next to you. By the time the story comes there, it's a total different story, because everybody tends to put something worse. En dis waar cyberbullying, en dan is dit onwaar. Daar was nou net, verlede week weer, 'n jong seun, iewers by 'n privaat skool. Hy was in die koshuis geboelie, 14-jarige skrander seun, en hy het selfmoord gepleeg. Wil jy hê, dit moet deel van jou geskiedenis wees, dat jy deelgeneem het aan daai bullying? Moet dit deel van jou geskiedenis wees? Dit is 'n ding waarmee ek vandag nog loop, en dit het regtig gebeur. In die hoërskool waar ek was, dit was 'n baie groot hoërskool gewees, en daar was 'n seun gewees saam met ons van standaard 6 af, maar hy het baie arm groot geword, en hy het swaar gekry, hy het geweldig swaar gekry, hy het net sulke kuite gehad, want sy ouers kon nie busgeld bekostig nie. Hy het elke oggend 15 km of 20 km met 'n fiets skool toe gery. Om betyds by die skool te wees. Die arme man, hulle kon nie tandepasta bekostig nie. En dan wanneer ons uitgevind het, dit is die man se verjaarsdag. Hy was 'n outsider. Ons, al my peers, made him an outsider. Want hy het anders groot geword, hy het swaar groot geword. Hy het nie sy tande geborsel nie. Het was nie lekker om met hom te gesels nie. En ons het hom uitgestoot. Dit het ons gedoen, almal van ons. En dit was vir my baie bitter. Ek was 2 jaar uit die skool uit, toe het hy in die weermag selfmoord gepleeg. Want hy het daar ook, hy het hom ingetrek, en hy het ook as outsider geword in die weermag, en op die einde sy lewe geneem. En dit het begin van skool af. Dis iets wat in my geskiedenis is, waaroor ek glad nie trots is nie, want ek het deelgeneem. Ek is een van die ouens wat op sy verjaarsdag tandepasta in sy tas gaan sit het. Pleksie probeer dit net ordentlik doen. En gee dit vir hom en sê, hierso is vir jou ietsie. Maar nou spot jy met hom en jy gaan steek dit in sy tas. Geef vir hom 'n so snydigheid. Gaan borsel jou tande. Dis boelie. Ek dink dis genoeg op te verstaan julle wat ek sê. Oor waar cyberbullying vandaan kom. Jy kan enigiets, om iemand te vloek op cyberbullying, dis maklik. Dis die verneinigheid, dis die insinuasies wat julle mekaar vernietig op cyberbullying. Dan kom ons by iets wat 'n groot kommer is in ons skole. In all schools, this is a huge problem. En ek weet nie how our society is going to get rid of this, but it's a huge problem. Child pornography. Ek dink nie julle besef wat child pornography is nie. Hierdie ding, dis 'n siekte in ons samelewing, waar boyfriends oortuig hulle girlfriends om fotootjies rond te stuur, heen en weer. Dit is child pornography. Julle besef nie wat julle doen nie. Jy moenie dink, daai fotootjies is privaat nie. As jy 'n sendknoppie gestuur het, is hy in die cloud. Jy kan maak wat jy wil. Dis jou legacy. Julle moet pas op wat julle doen. You must be careful. There is no such thing than a photo is private. I promise you. As jy send gedruk het, it's for the whole world to see. You can do what you want. It can come out. Your legacy is going to follow you. En dit is kinderpornografie. Daar is nie toestemming nodig nie. Toestemming beteken niks. Dit is wat die artikel sê. It's any image, however created, any description or presentation of a person, real or simulated, under the age of 18 years. Die oomblik as jy onder 18 is en jy besig jou met hierdie goed, is dit kinderpornografie. Whether such image or description or presentation is intended to stimulate erotic or, wat is daai laaste woord, aesthetic feelings or not. Dit hoef nie eers eroties te wees nie. Maak nie saak wat nie, as dit 'n kind is onder 18, is dit child pornography, klaar. Or showing, or describing the body or parts, or body of such a person. As jy vir iemand 'n boodskap stuur en jy beskryf daai persoon in seksuele terme, dis woorde, dit kom neer op child pornography, daar staan dit in die wet. In a manner or circumstances which the context, violate or offend the sexual integrity or dignity of that other person. As jy kwaad is vir jou meisie of as jy kwaad is vir jou ou, jy beledig hom op 'n WhatsApp oor sy liggaam of oor enige iets. Dit val onder child pornography, dit hoef nie beelde te wees nie. Dis wat die wet sê, dis nie ek wat so sê nie. Or is capable of being used for the purpose of violating or offending a sexual integrity and dignity of a person. Dit konstitusioneer child pornography. Dit hoef nie net prentjies te wees nie. Dis deel van die cyberbullying. As julle mekaar so sleg sê, mekaar uitklok, julle besef nie waarmee julle speel nie. Dan gaan jy na artikel 19 toe van die wet, 19a. As jy, any person who unlawfully and intentionally create, makes or produces child pornography in any manner, is guilty of an offense. As daai goed op jou foon gekry word, is dit 'n misdryf. Ek gaan jou nie kan help daarmee nie. As dit op jou foon is dit op jou foon. Any person who unlawfully or intentionally possess child pornography is guilty of an offense. As A vir B stuur, B stuur vir C, C stuur vir D, as dit op D se foon is en dit word op sy foon gekry, hy kan onskuldig wees. As hy in besit is dit 'n offense. En dan enigiemand wat unlawfully or intentionally in any manner distributes, makes available, transmits, views child pornography is an offense. En julle moet besef, vandag, veral, ons het die Child Justice Act. Nou mense glo vir my, dis baie makliker om iemand wat 18 jaar is en nou weer op 'n verkeerde plek is, en byvoorbeeld, gaan jagkamp toe en hy's daar in 'n bekleierery betrokke, en ongelukkig, dit moet ek julle ook waarsku, bly weg van bekleierye af, want die ou wat verloor, hardloop polisiestasie toe, en die ander ou word gearresteer. Vermy sulke situasies, maar dit is baie makliker om iemand bo 18 uit die regstelsel te kry met 'n aanranding, as wat jy 'n kind daar uitkry. We've got a Child Justice Act, and believe me, the moment when the prosecuting authority invokes the Child Justice Act, you are getting into a child justice system. The purpose of the act is beautiful. The purpose is, the act has got the best intentions. I can promise you, you don't want to get into that system. Want dit is vernederend, dit is 'n lang proses wat jy nou moet deurgaan, almal gaan daarvan uitvind, jy kom nie daar uit nie. En dan moet jy by die hospitaal gaan voete was. Jy verneder jouself deur net daarin betrokke te raak. Don't go there. Yeah, okay. Let me explain it like this. It's still in our law. A child younger than seven word geag ontoerekeningsvatbaar te wees. In other words, a child 7 years and younger, it's regarded that that child still cannot distinguish between right and wrong. A child between 7 and 14 is regarded as knowing the difference between right and wrong, and therefore can be held liable for his actions. 'n Kind tussen 7 en 14 word geag toerekeningsvatbaar te wees en verantwoordelik te wees vir sy of haar dade. Dit beteken, as jy in die moeilikheid is en jy's tussen 7 en 14, dan lê die verpligting by jou, jy gaan die hof moet oortuig. Jy het nie geweet wat's reg en verkeerd nie. En glo vir my, that is basically only possible if you can bring medical evidence declaring you an idiot. It's the only way. There is no other way. Ja. So. En dan bo 14 is jy toerekeningsvatbaar. Moenie eers met 'n verskoning kom nie. As jy bo 14 is, tot op jou 18de verjaarsdag is jy 'n kind. Vanaf 18 is jy 'n adult. Dit was altyd 21, as gevolg van ons sosiale omstandighede, our social circumstances in the country, they had to bring it down to 18. There are very, very, a lot of good reasons therefore. But I'm still convinced, if you're 18, you still cannot make proper decisions. We all have been 18. Mens begin eers regtig verantwoordelike besluite neem van 24, 25 af. En dis net 'n feit. Verstaan julle? Jy kan in die moeilikheid kom met boodskapies wat onder child pornography val en jy's geëtikeer. Jy is onmiddellik geëtikeer, jy kom nie en as jy skuldig bevind word aan enige misdryf in hierdie wet, kom jou naam op 'n Sexual Offences Register wat nasionaal gehou word. If you are caught with child pornography or if you are found guilty under the Sexual Offences Act, your name, say for the punishment you're going to get for the offense, your name is registered in a national register and you cannot, that's your legacy. Everywhere you're going to apply for work, they're going to pick it up. Jy gaan 'n klein foutjie in jou lewe maak. Jy gaan nie werk kry nie. Jy gaan tipeer word. Jy kan nie oorsee, jy gaan nie visums kry, jy gaan nêrens visums kry nie. Jy gaan gelukkig wees as jy 'n paspoort kry om net te kyk hoe lyk 'n paspoort. Maar jou lewe is vernietig. Jou kanse om werk te kry is 0. Jy gaan met daai etiket op jou rug loop die res van jou lewe. Everybody, we know that. En dit maak nie saak hoeveel keer jy vergifnis vra, jy kan vir jouself vergifnis vra en dit, society gaan jou merk. En wie se skuld is dit? Net jou eie skuld. You made a choice. You're gonna live with it. Artikel 16. Ek het my doodgeskrik. Ek was nie eers bewus van hierdie bepaling tot vroeër hierdie jaar nie. Artikel 16 sê, as jy 'n seun is, bo 16, as jy 'n seun is van 17 af, en jy soen 'n meisie, wat 2 jaar jonger as jy is, met of sonder haar toestemming, is jy skuldig aan sexual assault. Glo vir my, ek was nie bewus hiervan nie. Moet ek het herhaal? Do I have to repeat it? If you are a boy, or a girl, but normally it's the boys, if you are a boy, 17 years old, and you kiss a girl, who are 2 years younger than you, it's sexual assault, whether she gives consent or not.
I'm a dad. I have a daughter, she's 14 years old. A 17-year-old guy is kissing my daughter.
14 years and 11 months.
Yes. Okay. My daughter say nothing. She says, no, she like, I don't like that boy. I go and
Lay a charge.
lay a charge against him. He can be found guilty.
Yes.
With or without my daughter's consent.
Ja.
That's the law. Okay, can I ask another question? Can I ask him a few questions? Okay, say for instance... Okay, so let me ask it again. Put it on me. I'm going to ask the camera. I'm going to ask again. So if I have a daughter, she's 14 years, 11 months, 17-year-old guy kissed her with consent, but me as dad don't like the guy. I go and I lay a charge against him. What's the police going to do?
Going to arrest you.
Arrest you?
Yeah.
And then?
You are charged for sexual assault.
Are you going to the cells or what's going to happen?
That depends on the availability. Because you are 17, you fall under the Justice Act. Most probably you are going to be held in the cells, at least until the matter goes to court. and then they can divert it to the child justice system.
Same for women.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, wait, listen to this. I want you to listen to this. I want you to listen. We want to help you. Okay, let's ask another question. So I'm a dad. I have a son. He's 14 years old. He's been bullied. He tried to commit suicide. I get his cell phone and I see all of them that said stuff against him. Can I lay a charge against him?
Cyberbullying is not a crime per se, but you can use the Harassment Act.
Harassment Act.
Yeah, unless it constitutes assault.
Okay.
It can constitute assault in the broad sense, but it can fall under the harassment, and then you can get protection orders against those people. And if they then again repeat it, it's a crime.
Okay, another question. I have a daughter. My daughter slips and fall at the school. She fall on her back and everybody can see her panty. A guy take a picture of her panty. You laugh. Take a picture of the panty. That guy, she's 14 years old. He's sending the photos around. Is that child pornography?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
go to the police. Ek lê 'n klag. And then I want to see who he sent the photo. Everybody that gets that photo on his cell phone are guilty of that.
Yes.
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 Wow. Another question. Do you understand what I say?
Let me explain it this. The Act does not provide for accidental pornography. There's nothing like accidental pornography. It's child pornography, boom. And it does not be, I've read it to you, it does not need to be a naked. It's the moment when it's infringement on the privacy of another person, which can be have a sexual connotation, then it's child pornography.
Okay. What do I do? Say somebody here sent me that photo. What must I do? Because you can send me a photo. What I do with the photo?
Well, my best, delete it.
Immediately delete it.
Delete it immediately and then warn that person. Warn that person.
Listen, that's not a joke. Listen to what the lawyers say. You delete it immediately, plus you warn that person, don't send me that photo again, you're busy with child pornography. Because I have a record to go to the court and show, this is what I've done. Now I'm proving that I know what is right and wrong, and I've done the right thing. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes. So you can't claim, I didn't know. You can't claim that. The lawyers, they already had an act. You know, there's a lot of people behind it that is knowing what is right and wrong. Am I right?
Yeah.
Another question. In church, it happened in church. I take a video where I hit you. I knock you down. I take a video of it. What now? I'm sending that video around. That's assault.
I think it's more harassment.
More harassment.
It's harassment. It's a form of harassment, and then you can go to if you send that video to everybody and you tell everybody, including me, if you're going to do this, I'm going to do this again. That's assault.
That's assault.
To threaten someone, assault has got a very wide definition. The moment when you threaten someone and that person subjectively experience fear, that constitutes assault. The moment when you experience fear, it's assault.
Okay. Another question. Am I right? If somebody came to me and say, Pastor, I'm going to kill you. What must I do? I go to the police and I
Well, yeah, that can be that can lead to a charge of either assault or intimidation.
Intimidation.
If you believe him and you do fear, then the fear was constituted. If you fear for your life or your safety, that constitutes assault. You can lay charge of assault and intimidation.
The reason I want to do it, because that guy maybe have a gun or a knife. He threatened me on a cell phone, whatever, in front of me. Get to this church. I'm waiting at the focus deal. I'm going to hit you. I'm going to kill you. You just say it in anger, but I go and lay an assault claim against you. Nee? Then you're in trouble. Now the police need to do something. The lawyer, Gerard, always told me this, your paperwork needs to be in place. So no, the police maybe can say, no, that's not so, he's just making a joke. Tomorrow he's doing it again. I go and lay an assault charge against him again and again and again. One day there's trouble. I go to the judge. I say, there's 5-6 times he's done it. Am I right? Then you're in serious trouble.
And then the police is also in trouble because they didn't attend to your complaints.
Yes, they are also in trouble, and they don't want to be in trouble, so they're going to sort it. The problem I see, what he said, you're making choices. Guys, listen to me, please. You're making choices. You think it's a joke, but now you're 30, you are married, you want to go overseas, now you do a visa. A passport, they say, no, you can't get because police clearance. You want to go over the street, get a job at the NTK, you can get a wonderful job. They say, no, when you were 16, there was a charge of assault against you. You had child pornography when you were 16. Sorry, you can't get a job here because we're scared we're going to do it again. Now, but it's 15 years later. I'm a different person. Sorry, we're scared of you. Am I right? That's the problem. Now, the stupid thing, people right here, a year ago said to me, Pastor, we can get money on another way. But you don't know your future. You don't know what you want to do in 20 years' time. So you must think what you do now. The thing is, me and Gerard, we didn't have cell phones, but you have cell phones. And cell phones is a really big problem. So it can be a problem. Use it right. I use it for YouVersion, a Bible. I use it to send videos, do videos, Christian videos.